She's so inspiring, isn't she?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for inviting me to this lovely city. When I walked through Market Street, I actually thought I'd gone back to Africa. I saw these baskets that look just like home. And the weather is just like my country, Uganda, so I really feel at home. What we don't have is crab cake. That's well worth coming back for. So I want to make some remarks about HIV, how I got involved, and reflect on the passion and the future generation that Isabel represents and the challenges that they are going to face. I was born in Uganda 52 years ago. And 30 years ago, in 1982, I saw my first case of HIV. I was still a medical student, senior medical student, and I didn't even know that the case that I was seeing was HIV. It was a woman with a very rare cancer called Kaposi sarcoma. And as we were looking at this case of Kaposi sarcoma in a woman, which is quite rare, Kaposi sarcoma until that point was a cancer mainly for men, we reflected that they were seeing similar cases in San Francisco and New York. And we wondered what's going on. But the cases in San Francisco and New York were in gay men, and this was in an African woman, and we thought the two were not connected. It was only the following year and the subsequent year in 1984 that we realized this was the same disease that had flared up in the United States, in Europe, and in Africa. Although we now know that this disease had been dormant, probably in Africa for many, many years, until certain things happened and a critical mass of people got the infection and manifested the disease. Now, clearly in 1982, I had no clue that this was going to be one of the worst pandemics that the world has ever seen. I had no clue that 30 million people would die of this disease around the world. I had no clue that 1 million Ugandans out of a population of 30 million would die from HIV. And I also did not know that 10 of my own relatives would die of HIV. So this disease is very personal. I have lost brothers, sisters, cousins, and aunts. In Africa, we tend to bury people in our ancestral plantations, if I may call them that, as I'm sure parts of the United States used to. And when you go to my wife's ancestral plantation, there is a row of 7 tombstones of brothers and sisters who have died of HIV. So sometimes these diseases and infections are abstract, but when you come to Africa, they're very real. And as you have heard, South Carolina has got an invisible epidemic that is spreading very slowly but surely, because the incidence and prevalence of HIV, particularly in the southern states of the United States, is on the increase. And there are many reasons for that, which I will not go into tonight. So when I heard about Isabel and when I met her, I was really both challenged and inspired, because the years are getting on for many of us in this room, me included. And it's great that we have a young generation that is taking the fight to the people who need to know about HIV, particularly to teenagers and young people. In 1986, I, together with my wife Sheila, were part of the first group of physicians and educators who went out into the schools of Uganda to teach young people to do exactly what Isabel is doing here, to talk about HIV, frankly. And we were amazed, first, about how much young people knew that their parents thought they didn't know, particularly on issues of sex. But we're also amazed how much ignorance there was out there, and how important it is to be able to communicate with young people in an honest way for them to understand life because HIV is a product of life. HIV happens because life happens. And I have my own children. My son is 26. My sons are 26 and 25. And I have a daughter of 23 who's very much like Isabel, very passionate about women's causes, about HIV. But I'll always remember at the age of 9, she loved to sleep in our bedroom. So she'd crawl into our bed. And one day her brothers, her older brothers, came and told her, "Karen, stop doing that. Don't sleep with daddy and mommy." She said, "Why? Why not? I like sleeping with daddy and mommy." So they called her aside and whispered in her ears. We don't know what they told her. She got her little baby blanket and left the bed and went to the door and said, "Good night, daddy and mommy. Good night, Karen. Have fun." And we realized that, of course, we don't have a biological vaccine yet to protect us from HIV and AIDS. But we do have a social vaccine. That social vaccine is to provide the knowledge and the awareness around diseases like HIV, about issues including social issues, drugs, alcohol, life skills. And so for Isabel to do that with her peers, because young people listen to young people. And the advantage that we have today is social media, Twitter, Facebook, and all of that stuff.